From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Louie Butko.
Yes, it is Ticats Today for a Monday, November the 7th, 2022. And a bit more of a solemn day today as you saw the game yesterday. The Ticats season is over after falling to the Montreal Alouettes in the East semifinal in Montreal. And let me just say, on a personal level, I'm glad the sun rose this morning. But it did rise this morning, and life goes on, and I understand the passion that Ticats fans bring to this game and to this sport and to this city for this team. That being said, no one in that locker room today is happy. Nobody is jovial. Nobody's satisfied with the way the season went. And we're going to hear from a lot of people throughout the week, including on this show today. Coming up, we're going to hear from the coaches. We'll hear from the head coach, Orlondo Steinauer. We'll hear from the offensive coordinator, Tommy Condell. And we'll hear from the defensive coordinator, Mark Washington. They're also the assistant head coaches of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And then the Hamilton Spectator, Steve Milton, going to be on today's show. Tomorrow, we'll take a look at the offense. We'll hear from Dane. We'll hear from Simone. We'll hear from some of the guys who have been a bit banged up, Chris Van Zyl. Who else did we hear from this today? Lots of people. We're going to be here for at least a couple of days, I think. I don't know. I got to do a show today. We'll see if they let me do a show tomorrow. So I'm not that I'm going to say anything, but we just don't know yet. So I'm here today. I'll likely be here tomorrow and Wednesday, but we'll keep you apprised throughout the week on our plans here on the Ticats Audio Network, because when I know them, you will know them, and that's what it's all about here. You, the fans. And let me just say, personally, have appreciated your support all season long. Notice the listeners kind of clicked up there a little near the end, which is great because everybody loves a winner, and I'm glad that you were tuning in. And if you have supported me on this show and throughout my time here with the Ticats, just to let you know, I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. It's the reason that I get to do this is because you listen to it. So thank you. But like I said, you're stuck with me probably, maybe, I don't know, maybe for a couple more days, a few more days. I really don't know, so I can't tell you. But when I do have plans for the future, I'll be sure to pass them along to you, the loyal listener here at Ticats Today. I mean, I really don't need to dive too much into that. We're going to do with the game. We're going to get into that with the Hamilton Spectator, Steve Milton, later on. But it was locker clean-out day, final meetings with coaches and players. And let's start with the head coach and president of football ops of the Ticats. Here's Orlondo Steinauer as we caught up with him today.
Yeah, I feel like obviously we're disappointed. Let me just start with that first emotion. Just disappointed. We didn't play better, and that it's always bitter, right? It's bitter when it doesn't end the way you envision it. With that being said, when you reflect, there hasn't been enough time. To sit here and say that I wasn't proud of how we were resilient and we persevered, we responded to adversity, we didn't divide. To not take any of those positives along the way is a disservice, right? We're not going to be defined by a scoreboard. Like I always say, football is really what I do. It's not who I am. And so we're not in this to compete. We're in it to win championships. We understand that, but at the end of it, if you can't take anything that you did along the journey, it's very short-sighted. So I'm proud of everybody. Effort was never in question. Execution obviously needs to be better, but super proud. We overcame a lot of things this year, did a lot of things for, just I could point them out all along the way. Falling short, unfortunately, as long as they keep score, that's the name of the game. So I'm extremely proud. The list is too long, but also disappointed. The goal is to win championships, and we fell short. Yeah, I mean, you'll have to ask them how they feel about the organization. I know that we've laid a strong foundation. I think it's withstood the test of time. It's something that I've believed in since I've been here as the defensive coordinator. Yeah, they're going to be disappointed. But again, I want them to take the things that we did well, right? There's always going to be things to work on. That's part of the process along the way. But, I want them to take away more than just the final outcome, what was on the scoreboard there. If they want to use that for a certain amount of motivation or that sort of thing, that's up to the individual. We weren't good enough. We didn't get it done. We understand that. But to sit here and say that nothing was good and we didn't do anything well, that's very, very short-sighted and a disservice to everybody and all the hard work from everybody in the organization, to yourself, to Drew, to equipment, to therapy. And I know I always rattle these things off, but I always get to stand up here. But it's not about me. It's always about we, and everybody is disappointed. Okay, that's duly noted. But if that's all that we're defining ourselves by is the scoreboard, we're going to be a lot more disappointed than we are happy. So we're going to enjoy and celebrate the process of the great things that we did along the way also. Well, it doesn't drive you crazy because you can see improvement in practice. Again, we're privy to what we see daily, the improvement in the classroom, the improvement that we see out on the field. You want that to transfer on game day, and when it doesn't transfer, that becomes the challenging thing. And sometimes it's different continuity on the field. Sometimes it's a lack of concentration or a lack of focus. It's not a lack of effort. There's times when our execution was extremely high and afforded us opportunities to stay in games, to win games, and that sort of thing. So human error, physical mistakes are part of the game. You want to be the team that makes the least amount. It's the mental errors that we continually challenge. I don't have any traditions. I just truly do want to thank all you guys, everybody that showed up here day in and day out. I know that, thank the fans. At the end of the day, everybody but one team has a press conference like this, and it's not fun. And the goal is to win championships, and that will never change here in Hamilton. I just want to, just thank everybody for their contribution and for sticking with us when it wasn't looking, listen, I get it. When you drive home, you want to feel good. And I think we did that more times than not here at home. We just need to do it more consistently. So, in the most simple way, just thank you to everybody and all the supporters.
That is the head coach and president of football ops of the Ticats, Orlondo Steinauer. And as always, full scrums available at ticats.ca. This team has two assistant head coaches. One of them is the defensive coordinator, Mark Washington, and one of them is the offensive coordinator, Tommy Condell. And we caught up with them today. And let's start with Coach Washington. Here's how he was feeling today after yesterday's loss in the East semifinals in Montreal.
It's not a fun one. It's not the one that we worked hard for and we had looked forward to. We look forward to moving on and be preparing for our next opponent right now. But we didn't play well enough to advance, and so this is new territory. This is a territory that none of us want to be comfortable with or get familiar with. So. With all things, you reassess everything and look forward to get another opportunity. Two things. I want it to sting a little bit still, and it's going to sting because you realize the finality of it and you understand this hurts and it should hurt because you put so much into it and then the goal wasn't accomplished. But then at the same time to really, have an opportunity to go back and reassess everything and to see. At different points of the season, this team had opportunities for the wheels to fall off, and the wheels didn't fall off. And the men stuck together. They continued to play hard for one another. They played for the person next to them. And when you're at the 2/3 point of the season, you're 3-9, and things look really, really grim. To fight back, to put the last third of the season together the way the guys did, and then put yourself in a position to go into the playoffs, and then to go on the road and make a play, and it's a lot. It's a lot there because easily the wheels could have fallen off. Guys could have turned on one another. Guys could have just packed up and did whatever they wanted to do, but they didn't. That didn't happen, and I think that's a great testimony when it comes to the culture that has been built here, from all the way from that matter from caretaker Bob all the way down. Guys care for one another. The logo means something, and they want to play for that. And, we're extremely proud of that. But we got guys that played extremely hard, guys that their effort was relentless. They never stopped that. Guys who wanted to get better every week, guys who wanted to improve, guys who wanted to put their best out on that field, guys who wanted to play physical and make sure that they did their part, put their brick in the wall when it comes to being this installment of the Ticat defense. Growth. If I could sum it up, growth. He grew in so many areas of his life and in his game, and at this point of his career, he's blooming right at the right time. I mean, he is moving forward. I mean, when it comes to his leadership, he came to the team and he's sort of feeling his way through and everything like that. Now he understands, like, whoa, I'm the Mike linebacker. I'm the one with the mic, and he's grasped that role and he's taking it, and guys are following. And then his performance on the field also matches that. His preparation before the game, and you should hear him. He's calling out plays. He understands formations and all these type of things. So growth is what I see from Javon.
That is the defensive coordinator and assistant head coach of the Hamilton Ticats, Mark Washington, as we caught up with him during locker cleanout day. And we'll have more from more players throughout the week. But for today's show, we're taking a look at the coaches and talking to the coaches. And we had a chance to catch up with the offensive coordinator and assistant head coach, Tommy Condell. And here's how he was feeling this morning.
Well, anytime when it closes and finishes a season, no matter, if it's a Grey Cup or a playoff or a regular season, automatically your abrupt stops. And the day in the life of a football coach totally changes, so it's never easy. I'm surely my wife and kids are not even, they have their ship all ready to rock and roll, and I'm going to go upset that now. But, especially for the players and for the owners and everyone and the fans, we wish we could have gone to the Grey Cup and won it, and it always stings that way. Well, every year, you stick to your foundational principles, and we did that again this year. I think anything that you learn, it's going to be able to do that over maybe a cigar or something like that, and as you look and reflect throughout the whole year. But the biggest thing is the core principles that you lean on throughout the whole year, and those don't change. I mean, those are foundational. So from a learning sense on those things, that's what you lean on. The sense of learning, that's going to come later on as we look at and see what we could have done from a schematic sense, from a personnel sense, anything of that nature. But that goes on from now until training camp of next year.
What are you most proud of this group of guys you got here?
I think the biggest thing is we stayed together. I think we as a staff always had a consistent messaging, and we didn't flinch with that consistent approach, with that consistent coaching. In regards to that, I think the players felt that, and we continued. We weren't going to be up and down and go through the vicissitudes of the season, emotional roller coaster. We're not going to do that. We don't do that. And the coaches had to be an example and leaders of that, and we were able to do that, and we were able to turn it around slowly, and the players continued to do the things that they needed to do, and improved, and that's the most, I think, the biggest thing for this year. I will have to go a deep dive on that. I think there's numerous things that kind of went into that. It's certainly not from a preparation standpoint. We had enough times we practiced that situation multiple times every day, and to be able to make those plays. There were times that we didn't make those plays. Let us say make that block, make that catch, make that throw. We didn't, and that happened and bit us yesterday. Especially on some second and downs, getting in towards that. To be able to make those convertible down and distances, and we didn't get a chance to do that. We're going to look at it and hard look at it, and I got to look at. And we continue to do that for every season, though. You look at it from, hey, what were we asking those players to do? How did they execute? Why didn't they execute? And then come from there. Those things, when we go back and we evaluated it, there's always going to be from a fundamental sense that we need to improve upon. From also a schematic sense of just the processing of information and seeing where that goes. But we'll start from the, fundamentals of the position and then grow on from there and see where the things that he wants to, feel, what he feels that he needs to improve upon. And
that is the assistant head coach and offensive coordinator of the Ticats, Tommy Condell, as we caught up with him after practice day. And you can head over to ticats.ca or on our various social media channels to hear his full comments with questions and answers, including questions from this man. Our next guest is the Hamilton Spectator Steve Milton, who arrived back from Montreal at 1 a.m. and was still there today for locker clean-out day. And Milty, let's start with this Ticats team. I tried to pose the question a couple of times throughout the day today. That is, who are the 2022 Hamilton Ticats? Who were the 2022 Hamilton Ticats? How will this season be remembered?
Yeah, I mean, here's what ends this discussion, Louie. 8 games against the 2 teams above them, the 2 teams that will meet for the right to go to the Grey Cup. Lost 6. Yeah.
I know. I mean, that's it. I mean, listen, you look at this team, and we haven't talked to Coach yet. Maybe at some point we'll hit pause on this and hear from him on the other side of it. But I mean, I keep going back to injuries and where this team was. Every team has injuries, but key injuries at key spots on the football field, I feel like.
Well, we were talking just before you and I start talking formally here about the first drive in the semifinal game, in which there was a run back, a very good run back that set the tone. Then they haven't given up a ton of those, but that speaks to the guys that they were missing on downfield tackling all year. I mean, people like Curtis Newton and Nick Cross and Turnowski for a great number of games, and a whole bunch of people that made a difference there. Then They really did have a relatively easy first drive. I mean, Trevor did a great job, of course, but and I felt that, and he wasn't under pressure until basically 5 minutes into the third quarter, and then he was under pressure the rest of the game. But I think the absence of Dylan Wynn was very, 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 very obvious on that drive and through much of this game.
Yeah, Fletcher, too. I mean, maybe a bit of a surprise from all of us watching and all the talk about Stanback, but to see it not be Stanback but Fletcher and gets to get really,
Well, it's very much like Sean Thomas Erlington coming in after 3 West Hills play, where you have the counter to the outside type of thing, and then, of course, that was the touchdown. The second touchdown? Yeah.
33 yards.
And good change of pace, and it's very, very difficult. I mean, the change of pace is coming, but you don't know exactly how, and especially if they do it in a hurry, and especially if both of them happen to be out there. And then also Fletcher to the outside on those, starting on out there as a wide receiver type of guy. So I thought it was very well. I think Montreal deserved it. I think they deserved to be in. And conversely, if you look at it that way, if you look at it objectively, despite the 4-game run at the end, which was very commendable on Hamilton's part. But they weren't good enough. Simply weren't good enough.
Like you said, that kind of sums up the season when you look at this team.
Yep. And then now you have to look at what are the components of all that, and how do you change all that, and how do you fix it? And you've got a long off season to do that. I think, as everybody's feeling, it's a Grey Cup home year. A lot of rabid Ticat Nation fans, change everything, and of course you don't need to do that. I mean, you don't really need to do it, nor should you. Yeah. But because there was a lot of good stuff there, just wasn't enough good stuff. I mean, not nearly enough good stuff. So they'll have to do some soul searching here, and we'll see. I mean, some players are going to get offered, as free agents to go somewhere else. They're going to have to bid for them. Some people that they'll have to determine who they want to keep. They're paying too much in some areas, and what happens with some of the coaches? Some of them might get some offers. Some of them may have to, take a hit for what happened here, because however you slice this team finished 8-11. Yeah. Not good enough.
Not good enough. When you look at guys who will be back, guys who might be back, how different do you see this team looking? I mean, we don't have the list in front of us. But.
Yeah, I would say probably, championship teams might be, and sometimes they do it on purpose to keep things, you have to do it it's a tough salary cap league. I mean, people forget this. Extremely hard salary cap here. It's probably the hardest cap in the NHL, are the 2 hardest caps, and they really enforce it. So you have to sort of, in a way, choose where you're going to so you're always going to lose probably 20%. Even a championship team, what Winnipeg was 25%. So let's say 20% is the norm. There'd be add a little more because they were up against the cap anyway. So I would say about 30% different, but I don't think you can go too much more different. Yeah. I mean,
I mean, well, like we were talking about, there's definitely going to
Grey Cup.
Well, and there's definitely guys who are going to be who've earned raises. Tim White is the team's nominee for MLP.
sure.
Cam Kelly. Yeah. These are guys who finished their second year, and typically after their second year, Americans coming in, they're going to.
I think one of the good things is they have a lot of young Canadians. You know, some of them were hurt, but a lot of good young Canadians on the second year of their contract and the third. And here's the good news on one stabilizing factor. And I keep using the word stabilizing, and coaches and players object to it, but I think it's the correct word, and that's Seth Small. Some things stabilized the minute he became the guy, and it became obvious after a couple of games that he was reliable. Well, he's on the he'll be going into the second year club option. You think they aren't going to take that option?
Yeah. Coulter, again, someone who's coming off his second year, rookie.
Yeah.
He earned his spot on that line.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of the offensive line, not a cheap position on the football field. Nope. Beard, Colin Kelly, I mean, those guys. Brandon Revenberg is an East nominee for multiple reasons. I mean, that's a spot, too.
When you include the depth players they have on that, the extra player or two that they need to have, there's too much money in the offensive line. I'll be writing about that this week.
All right, well, I'll let you write about it, Melty. You mentioned Seth Small. Is there somebody else that really made an impact this season on this team to you that stood out that you weren't expecting?
I don't know that impact is the right word, but encouraging in terms of development. And when Simone went down,
I think that's.
I think
Kyle Wilson is
Kyle
somebody.
Wilson, I think, is somebody that they knew that was going to happen, just like they knew what they had in Lorenzo Malden, but they weren't able to keep him. Julian Hauser, I thought he had a great season. I thought. Yeah, he's just the one. Okay. I thought Julian had a great season. Santos Knox proved to me is a much better player. I kept looking for the flaws, and they weren't there. He had that's a bona fide. Yeah. That's a real bona fide, I think, and I have to say it was a little surprising for me.
All right. Well, lights are flashing. Coach is about to enter the room. Milty, appreciate your instant analysis today.
Okay, thanks, Louie. Bye.
My thanks to the Hamilton Spectator, Steve Milton, for joining me today. And all season long, that guy has earned at least a couple of days off. You can catch his thoughts and musings, as always, in the copy of the Hamilton Spectator or online at thespec.com. All right, my thanks to you for joining us today. We will be back tomorrow with more end-of-season content for you here on Ticats Today. Thanks for joining us on the Ticats Audio Network. I'm Louie Butko, hoping you have a great day.
Ticats Today can be heard every weekday, and we would like to hear from you. Email us at gameday@ticats.ca. Have a question or an opinion? We want to hear it. That's gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.